You have often heard this term strong application. What does it mean, this strong application? I mean, do you feed Bornvita or Boost to your application to make it strong? In today's video, this is what we're going to talk about. How do you make your application strong? How do you present a good application so that you are absolutely reducing and minimalizing the chances of refusal and rejection? Hi, my name is Kubeir. Welcome to my channel. On this channel and all our social media platforms, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my website, we are always trying to provide you with tips, tricks, tools, information, process updates so that you can navigate through this Canadian immigration process. So if you are new here, new to this channel, do consider subscribing, and if you do that, do click on the bell icon so you can get updated whenever I upload a new video just like this one. Strong application. So whenever we refer to our application being strong, and today's video is about strong PR application, permanent residency application. So whether it's a spousal application, parents, grandparents application, or economic class, which is through express entry, provincial nominee, all these permanent residency related applications, and we're going to talk about these applications today. We are not talking about study permits, work permits, or visit visa. All that I will cover in another video. But before we even come to this strength part of the application, or how to sort of give additional strength to your application, you first need to understand that the application needs to be complete. Your application is subject to certain sections of the law which require this application to be complete, and if your application is not complete as per these sections of the law, then your applications will be rejected. Let's quickly scroll through what this law is about. So here we are on the Government of Canada website, the Justice Laws website, which has reference to the Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations. We are specifically interested in Section 10, which is also referred to the R10. I mean, you must have heard about this R10 completeness check. So this is the section of the law which talks about the application to be completed under the certain requirements as to what needs to be included in the application. The law basically speaks about different application types. So it is not referring to specifically express entry or spousal, but it is basically referring to all different types of applications in relation to permanent residence as to what all information needs to be completed in the application when the application is submitted. If any of this information or any of the documents have not been submitted, the visa officer is within their rights to refuse or rather reject the application because the completeness checks were not met. Again, the completeness check refers to the applications are required to submit their complete application, including all mandatory forms, fees, information and supporting documents. And if you will not complete your documents or provide all the information in the documents, if you miss a signature, if you miss a document, you provide wrong document, then your application is found to be incomplete and it will be returned or it will be rejected, as is the case with the express entry applications. So now that you know what's a complete application, another thing that we need to understand is that the Canadian immigration process or the law puts the burden of proof on you. It basically means that it is your responsibility to prove or give evidence to all aspects of your application for which you have either claimed points or the basis on which your application is being made. When it comes to the economic class immigration applications, there you have several factors that you need to prove, you need to give evidence for: age, education, work experience, proof of funds, any additional factors, for example, relatives. For example, you're claiming additional points for provincial nomination, you're claiming additional points for Canadian education, you're claiming points for sibling in Canada. Now, these are several factors which are giving you points. Economic class or basically express entry applications, Because you are getting points for all these different factors, it becomes your responsibility to ensure that you are going to prove and you're going to provide strong evidence to prove all of these factors so that you are awarded these points without any problem. When thinking about this burden of proof, you have to understand that you will provide documents that will satisfy the visa officer in the most credible manner. You cannot leave blanks and expect the visa officer to fill in the blanks, or basically he will just assume this is what you're trying to prove or this is what you're trying to do, and therefore he will make a case for you. That is not going to happen. Wherever you're going to leave those gaps, it is going to be an issue. At times, visa officer may ask you for additional documents if they are not able to fill those gaps and you have left those gaps, which will result in you having a longer processing times. Or if the visa officer is not satisfied with those gaps, they will simply refuse your application. Now, that is what you absolutely don't want, because not only is it loss of time and money, it could also very well be loss of that very single opportunity that you've had to make your case for permanent residence. Therefore, always pay a lot of attention to your document checklist. Now, CIC website in most cases will provide you with information as to what documents are required. You can check in the description box. I have given you a link for the express entry application requirements and complete documents requirement as IRCC expects from you. But keep in mind, this is the minimal document required. Minimal basically means that this is absolutely the requirement. You must provide it. If you are not going to provide it, then either your application is going to be rejected under the completeness check, or in the lack or in the absence of this document, your application will be refused later at the assessment stage, which basically happens under section A11.2. Now, this section A11.2 relates primarily to the assessment and the eligibility of your application. So whenever you do have time, you should head over to the CIC website and take a read through the section A11.2 on the CIC website. And I have also posted the link in the description box below. This can give you a lot of insight into what you can and cannot do in your application. Even after submitting your application, what you can and cannot do has been aptly covered in this. It is always a good idea to have a read through this particular section while you're preparing to submit your application. This will also help you to understand, incorporate any documents that you might need to make your application stronger. Now, whenever there is a time when you are not able to provide a document which is required by IRCC, for example, they require you to provide a reference letter or an employment reference letter on your company's letterhead, and it should include your name, your designation, your job title, your working hours, your period of work, your duties and responsibilities. It should be signed by a reporting manager. It should obviously be on the letterhead and should have all the contact details. So this is the minimal requirement. And this is the web page on the CIC website, which refers directly to the express entry applications and also refers to the completeness check, and it talks about all the different documents that you must provide in your application, which are mandatory documents, which are the minimum required documents which you must provide. If you do not provide any of these documents, if they are applicable to you, then your application will be rejected under the completeness check. So you must go through this list, and again, the link for this is in the description box below. And again, all this information that has been mentioned on this web page is for the minimum requirement documents. For example, proof of work experience. While there is a lot of information mentioned over here as to what documents are required, this is not limited to just these documents. You must try and provide additional documents. For example, over here, it just asks for document for work experience to be a reference letter or an experience letter, which basically says it should be an official document printed on company letterhead, etc., etc. It does not ask you for your pay slips or pay stubs or proof of salary, but we always recommend that you must provide additional proof to show that this period of employment that you had was paid work experience, was paid. So you should provide pay slips, pay stubs, income tax returns, bank statements to have, which shows your salary credit. And this way it sort of proves to the visa officer that you were paid, which is a requirement for your work experience to be considered valid. And then when we come to the proof of funds, again, the requirement is for you to provide the letter from the bank, and the letter from the bank must mention the balance or average balance, which is basically for the last 6 months. So a lot of people get confused with this. The requirement is that your letter from the bank must indicate average balance for each month for the last 6 months. Now, most banks will not provide this information. Therefore, you can always provide your bank statements for the last 6 months, which will pretty much give the same information to the visa officer. The visa officer is basically trying to figure out if all these funds belong to you, that these have not been borrowed, these are unencumbered. And therefore, when it comes to things like this, like proof of funds, if you have had sudden spikes in your deposits, if you've had a large amount of money deposited into your account, you will need to provide additional documents to show that where this money has come from, because it's extremely important for visa officer to understand that this money is yours, it has not been borrowed. And if it has been borrowed, then you will need to explain that as well as to how you intend to clear your borrowings. So for example, you have received a gift, provide a gift deed. You have sold your car, well, provide the sale deed. You have sold gold and then provided that amount, or you have deposited that money in your account, provide the sale deed. Always, always, always provide additional documents to show where the funds have come into your account, and that way you will not have an issue. As we all know, we do not really live in an ideal world, and there are these instances where the employer does not provide you with this document, or you have a manager who is not willing to sign it off for you, or you have a company which has a strict policy where they do not give you this information, or they give you limited information. What's going to happen in such cases? What do? Now keep in mind, every time you deviate away from the requirement that IRCC has, it is entirely on the discretion of the visa officer whether they will accept it or not. Now, in order to make sure that the discretion that the visa office is going to apply is minimal and your chances are higher, provide very strong, persuasive documents that are credible, documents that can be verified, documents that the visa officer has no reason to doubt. And guys, here is a pro tip. I am going to share something with you which nobody will ever share with you on a YouTube video. This is what I would use to explain to the visa officer the reason for choosing a specific NOC code. Invariably, what happens is when you choose an NOC code, it is not a direct match with your duties and responsibilities. So for our clients, the clients who have signed up with us, we usually in such cases use a NOC comparison chart, whereby on one side we will list all the duties that have been mentioned in the NOC code that we have chosen, and on the other side we will list the duties that do match with that specific duty on the NOC code. And by this we are then able to show to the visa officer as to why that NOC is a match, and therefore we then give further explanation as to how these lead statement matches and the duties matches, and thereby giving a good explanation to the visa officer in a visual format so that they can see the reason why we have chosen the NOC, and therefore making it easy for him or her to approve our application. So whenever you're providing these kind of documents, make sure these documents preferably are official if you can, that they contain the contact details of the person who's signing this document. Provide a notary or a notarized document if possible. Now, why do we talk about this notary? In Canada, notary is given a lot of weight. Notary basically is a document whereby you swear in front of a respected designated authority who is allowed or who is authorized to take a sworn statement, and therefore attest that document stating that yes, this is the person who has signed this document and that this person has checked your identity. This is what a notarized document means. I know in some countries outside Canada it is taken quite lightly, but in Canada this sworn affidavit or sworn document has a lot of weight. So if at all you're going to attach a document which is not a regular document or something which you should have provided, then do consider providing a sworn affidavit, because it will always have more weight than a regular document on a regular paper. Another thing, when preparing these documents, you must make sure that they are not speculative in nature, that these are dated, they are signed. They should usually be scans of the original document. Therefore, when you do present these documents which are moving away from the minimal requirement documents or the mandatory requirement documents, do provide a detailed letter of explanation. Sometimes people just underestimate how important your letter of explanation is. Your letter of explanation is basically your lifeline. It is your lifeboat. It is your life vest, whatever you want to call it. Use it judiciously. Use it smartly. If you have deviated from the minimum requirements, if you have deviated from the requirement of the documents, use this letter of explanation to provide detailed story, background information on what you're trying to do in your application. It's extremely important. Just like I said before, do not expect the visa officer to fill in the blanks. Do not expect or assume that the visa officer will understand the situation. Visa officer is not sitting there to sort of, make up stories for you. They want to see evidence. They want to see documents. So if you have provided that, that will always help in your application. Well, that's it from me. I hope I was able to give you some insight onto how you can prepare a strong application. Do comment below in the comments and let me know what you think. And if you think there was any other strong areas of the application that you could add to, and I will be happy to see those comments. Do subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like and share. And I will see you next time with another video. Take care.